Welcome to the Peew.
Welcome to the Peew.
The Sweat Lodge edition.
The Sweat Lodge edition for Ernie Glam, especially made for Ernie Glam. The
No,
skinny, anemic Ernie Glam.
The reason we are in the Sweat Lodge and not in the air-conditioned room is because Michael felt self-conscious about his height. You felt that
we
too
looked like
tall.
a ventriloquist dummy.
Right, because I'm much taller than Michael, so he doesn't want to
It looked like he was
short.
standing, and it looked like he should have his hand in my back, and like.
So we could only sit in the living room, which is way hotter.
Well, we
than
could
that.
actually sit in the other room,
But it doesn't look as nice as out here. I mean,
Well,
doesn't this look nice, Pewers?
it
Look,
could look nicer
how
with
pretty.
Anyway.
Beautifully decorated. You've done a good job.
We're here to discuss Victor Corona's book,
Nightclass.
Nightclass.
It's just hit Amazon.com and it's hit fine bookstores in New York City. He's been doing a lot of publicity for it. It's been written up.
And written down. Written up and written down.
And it's been read to filth. He's actually the one doing the reading, and then there's quite a few people in the book doing readings.
So
it's a great book. You have to buy it. If you're interested at all in New York City nightlife, especially from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, definitely get the book because he interviewed so many nightlife personalities.
Yes, it was one of those. It was one of those things where you know we've known a lot of people who've done this, who've gone around interviewing people endlessly for a book that never comes out. And so it was one of those things where a lot of people, I was left wondering, is this book ever going to come out? Because he was interviewing. And so it finally did come out.
I was confident that it would come out because he is a sociology professor, and
but that's originally it was supposed to be a more academic thing.
Well, I mean, because he sent it to the publisher, and the publisher advised him to rewrite it. And
right.
I mean, that's typical when you're publishing a book that the editor might say, "Oh no, you have to change everything."
Yes.
And
yes.
That happened to you.
I know. So I'm going to ask, since I haven't read the book yet, I'm going to ask Ernie all kinds of questions. So what did he say about me?
Well, it's a page turner. I'll first say that I was just like turning. I read the whole thing, like when I was on the plane going back and forth to California last week.
Now, was it a page turner because you know all the people in the book, or because?
No, it's very cleverly written, and at first I had pause about the book because here is a sociology professor who is going to write some kind of academic book about the influence of Andy Warhol from the 60s and 70s through nightlife in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and the present. And I thought, well, how interesting could that be?
I find that really interesting.
It was extremely interesting, and he connected all these dots, and he used all these examples of how people after post-Warhol have taken up the Andy Warhol mantle and have used some of the same social techniques that Andy used to advance themselves.
Well, give us an example.
Okay, so one of the things that Andy Warhol is very famous for is for like becoming really close friends with an it girl for a while or an it person, and then.
Well, now who would emulate that?
Well, apparently a number of people have, including you, Suzanne Barsh, and Patricia Fields.
Wait, Suzanne Barsh has it girls?
Yeah, and it boys.
It boys, maybe. And
she has it girls and it boys.
Patricia Field does.
Yeah, so what Victor very cleverly did was he went about interviewing all the embittered people who were like bitter with Andy, bitter with you, bitter with Suzanne Barsh, bitter with Patricia Field, and let them just talk about their feelings of being forgotten. He called it being thrown down the memory hole because on top of this being a sociological study, his analysis, the lens he used to analyze all this was Orwellian, and the Orwellian lens he took from 1984. So he uses all these terms like the memory hole, which is
so used up and thrown away.
Yes,
like yesterday's garbage.
But down the memory hole, forgotten. So Lady Gaga did it. Patricia Fields.
Who did Lady Gaga do it to?
To Lady Starlight.
Lady Starlight.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's in there.
And who did Patricia Field do it to?
Well, there are a number of people from the House of Field that feel that feel rejected or forgotten, or that feel that they did not get the consideration they deserved.
Okay, I'll buy it. Who did I do it to? Who did I do it to?
Well, you'll have
Victor. Who did I do it to?
You'll have to read the book. Victor very astutely analyzes you. And
so who did I drop down the memory hole? You forgot?
It's down the memory hole. I can remember. I can remember like the people who are complaining about Suzanne and who especially the people who are complaining about Patricia Field.
They must be very vocal.
Well, Artie talked about it wasn't Artie. It was maybe it was Perfidia talked about being thrown down the memory hole because when Pat was getting all these juicy assignments to do, like Sex and the City,
Ugly Betty.
She never asked Perfidia to come along and do hair and makeup. She went to like another hairstylist
That's
to do
weird,
wigs.
because Perfidia was her hair and makeup person.
Right, because, Perfidia said it was because Pat just wanted Perfidia to stay in the store and never leave the store.
No,
And,
that could be true.
And so he was really upset about that, that he was just consigned to the store, and eventually he quit the store because he didn't want to be stuck in the store. And now he's a Broadway wig and wig diva.
Right. So who else was thrown down? I'm curious about this memory hole. Who's thrown down the memory hole?
Well, Lady Starlight, Victor argues, was by Lady Gaga, and then of course there are a lot of Warhol superstars that feel that they were thrown down the memory hole by Andy Warhol. In the case of Suzanne, I believe, I'm trying to remember who, Kay Lanzan.
Was he thrown down the memory hole?
By Suzanne, yes. So, he talks about that. Who else? Like JoJo talks about his need to get away from Pat because he felt like he was basically trapped
She
in the
left
store.
on skulls in her wake.
Trying to think of.
I'm glad to hear about that because it takes a lot of the attention off of me.
Well, there is a whole chapter about you in the book where Victor said that there's basically 4 elements to your personality.
Oh no!
So the 4 elements, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember them all, but the first one is the thinker. So that's like the intellectual Michael, and where you have all these interesting ideas and theories, and
Let me guess, they're going to all go downhill from here.
Yes, they are. Then there's Michael Alig the child, who is attention-seeking and who doesn't necessarily have adult boundaries.
Cuddly.
And who says inappropriate things.
Because you don't know any better.
There's the drug addict.
Uh-oh.
The drug addict who basically is just, obsessed with getting high and instant satisfaction. And
The fourth one is?
And the fourth one, I can't remember what it was. But he was basically saying in the book that the drug addict, by the time he was done with you, had taken over.
Well, so who's the fourth one?
I don't know. I can't remember. You'll have to read the book.
I'm going to have to read the book now.
It's available on Amazon.
Let me try and guess who the fourth one would be.
All right. Well, let's think about it. We'll take a break right now.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Welcome back to the Peew.
The Dream Crusher.
So, Victor has been getting a lot of press for his book, and in one of the articles, he said he couldn't believe that the state of New York decided to give you parole.
I know, that was in page 6.
By the time he was done with you, that's how
By
he
the
felt.
time he was done with me. He put me down the memory hole.
Well, he's done with you, yeah.
He put me down
Well,
the memory hole.
He has not put you down the memory hole because he has committed you to text in his book, so you are forever memorialized in his book. What did you think of him by the time you were done working with him?
I thought that he was. Well, it's funny you ask because by the time I was done with him, I likened him to what's her name in the movie. The Life and Time, Jean Brody.
Right. Well, you used
Miss Jean Brody, and the analogy was so perfect. Anybody who doesn't know, Jean Brody, the prime of Miss Jean Brody is Judy. What's the actress?
I can't remember the name
it's
of
not Judi Dench.
I can't remember the name of the actress.
The other one.
It's a funny movie. It's British.
Yeah. But it's more than funny. And it's extremely smart.
Too, yeah.
It's poignant, and it's about a teacher, a teacher of a girls' school.
She's very idealistic.
Yeah, and she molds the girls in her
image.
In her image, and when they
just like Andy Warhol did.
Like Andy Warhol did, and like Victor did. Victor,
and like you did to some of the club kids.
And I continue to do. Victor had every season a new it girl, a new it boy, and one season it was Corey, Corey the publicist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the boy was Andrew Cox, and they were both his kind of minions. And just like in the movie, she kind of pits them against each other and for her own entertainment, really. And eventually they mutiny. They rise up against her, and they all figure it out. It's like the end of Harriet Craig, where she's discovered as the manipulative bitch that she is. And so all of Victor's
starring Joan Crawford.
Yeah, all of Victor's manipulations came to a head one season with Corey and Andrew, where he told. Should I tell the story? I don't know.
Well, only if it's relevant to what you thought of working with.
Well, it is because
he did help you a lot.
He did help me, but this thing that he did with Andrew and Corey, it was so evil and manipulative. The way he manipulated me into thinking that they didn't want to work for me, and they only wanted to work for me if he told them to, and then he told them that I didn't want them working for me only if he wanted. So it was all about him, and when he was removed from the equation, and me and Andrew and Corey got together and discussed everything, we realized how much we'd been manipulated by Victor, and we couldn't believe it. And to this day, none of us speak to Victor because of that.
Well, do you speak to Corey or Andrew?
I do. And they're both very successful now. And they feel. And he told them that if they didn't follow what he said, he would make sure that they are never successful in any of the. She wanted to be a publicist, and he wanted to produce musicals. And he said that he would make sure that they are not successful if they didn't follow along everything that he said. And they are very bitter about that.
Mm. So the chronicler of the people who cast other people down the memory hole became the caster.
He became the caster, yes. Castor oil.
Which is bitter.
Very bitter to swallow. But I will have to go run out and buy that book now, because God knows that cheapskate Victor Corona is not going to give me a copy.
Well, he gave me a copy, and he wrote a very sweet inscription. And to this, and the funny thing is about the book, I read through it, and he does mention me and attribute statements to me. And the thing that I was happy about in the book is that in no part of the book do I say anything bad about anybody.
Well, you rarely say anything bad about anybody on camera. You wait till the camera goes off to say how you really feel. When the camera goes off, Ernie says how he really feels.
So I don't say anything negative in the book, and he also.
In fact, that would be a funny skit.
And we'll
have all these little scenarios of Ernie doing interviews, and he'll say something about somebody, and then the camera go off, and then he'll say what he really thinks.
And he called me beloved.
Beloved.
I didn't think I was beloved.
I don't think you are either. See you next time.
Bye.